Good morning. We are now on the record. The current time is 10:07 a.m. Pacific time on February 3rd, 2022 to begin the deposition of Jaime Juarez in the matter of Waldy v. County of Los Angeles et al. This case is venued in Superior Court of the State of California, County of Los Angeles, Central District. The case number is 20-STCV24195. This deposition is taking place via Steno's Steno Connect platform. The legal videographer is Kyle McDowell, here on behalf of Steno, and the court reporter is Donna St. Clair, also here on behalf of Steno. Would counsel please identify yourselves and state whom you represent?
Sure. Alan Romero, taking the deposition on behalf of the plaintiff. Also present are Lucas Rowe and Reagan Quilling from my office.
I'm sorry, the last name?
So I'm Alan Romero. If you look in the participants tabs, you can see everyone with their full names. Lucas Rowe, R-O-W-E, and Reagan Quilling, Q-U-I-L-L-I-N-G, is a paralegal from my office.
Thank you. George Peterson and Ms. Christine Mardikian for the defense.
Thank you, counsel. Would the reporter please swear in the witness?
Mr. Juarez, please raise your right hand to be sworn. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give in this matter shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
Okay, good morning. I have a marked Exhibit 1. Can you see Exhibit 1 that I've just uploaded?
It's not on the screen yet.
We're working on that, so let's see. I have it marked. Having a bit of a technical issue here, which is not fun. It says preview not available for this file. Let me try again. All right. Mr. Videographer, you want to hop in and help me out with this technical difficulty?
Yes. What file type are you uploading?
This is an image file, and it is a JFIF file.
Let me verify that that file type is supported.
I know we just went on the record, but should we go back off while you guys figure this out?
Sure.
Okay.
We are now off the record. The time is 10:10 a.m. Pacific time. We are now back on the record. The time is 10:11 a.m. Pacific time.
All right, I'm introducing an exhibit. It's going to be Exhibit 2 since Exhibit 1 was a fluke and the software won't recognize the file type. So let's see. Can you see and I think Exhibit 2 we're roisting half. Oh, can you see image Exhibit 2, Mr. Juarez?
There are multiple images that are going up. This is the third one.
I only have one in the middle of my screen. It's marked as Exhibit 2.
Okay.
And has a black truck with some flags, a black pickup truck with some flags on it.
Got it.
Mr. Juarez, can you see this photo?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Do you recognize the vehicle in this photo?
I do.
Okay. And how do you recognize the vehicle in this photo?
That's my truck.
Okay. Do you still own this truck?
Hold on just a second. You can answer that question.
I do.
Okay. What's the make, model, and year of this vehicle?
2006 Ford F-250.
And what color is it?
Black.
What is the flag we see on the left side of this photo?
That's the American flag, commonly referred to as thin blue line flag.
Okay. And what's the flag we see on the right side of the photo?
That is a flag that shows a station tattoo for Compton.
Okay. Do you have this tattoo on your body?
Don't answer the question. That's invasive of privacy.
Okay, so I'm going to mark that actually. So I'm going to ask you, Deputy Juarez, basically, I'll only say this once, that there's only one basis to not answer questions at this deposition, and that's privilege. your counsel has not invoked privilege? Are you going to take your counsel's advice and refuse to answer whether or not you have this tattoo?
Actually, I have invoked a privilege. Privacy is a privilege, and he's invoking that.
Counsel, I'm probably going to start ignoring you pretty soon, but do you have a case that says that you have a privilege to say that tattoos on your body are private?
No, I've got the California Constitution that says personal privacy is protected. So that's my authority.
Okay, well, also the Discovery Act is under the California Constitution. I would disagree with your interpretation. So, Mr. Juarez, are you refusing to answer whether or not you have this tattoo on your body?
I'm going to take my attorney's advice and not answer the question.
Okay. That's number one. I'd ask the court reporter, please mark that.
Counsel, do you want to have a running stipulation that when I instruct him, he is going to follow my instruction? And you don't have to ask that over and over again. Do you want to have that stipulation, or do you want to go through that little exercise?
I'd like to go through that little exercise every time. I think this is a case of enormous public importance. I believe the public, the people of California, the people of the United States have a right to these questions to be answered, as well as the plaintiff. And I'm going to use my rights under the California Constitution and the Discovery Act to inquire as to these questions at this deposition. I thank you for the invitation, though. So, Mr. Juarez, when's the first time you saw this logo on the flag?
I want to say 2000 and approximately 2011, I believe.
Is that when you were first assigned to Compton Station as a patrol deputy?
No.
Okay. When is the first time you saw this image?
I saw it at a benefit ride. I believe it was a benefit ride.
Did you see it on a flag, a decal, or as a tattoo?
I saw it on a shirt, I believe.
Okay. At that time, where were you assigned as a deputy sheriff?
To Compton Station.
Okay. Who was wearing the shirt that you saw this logo on for the first time?
I don't recall the person that was wearing it.
Okay. Have you seen other people with that tattoo on their bodies?
Yes.
Who? Name all the people you've seen that tattoo on.
Okay, let me see. Jose Sandoval, Jesse Sandoval, Omar Cabarrubias, let me think. James Cross, Ruben Jimenez, Edwin Barajas, Taylor Ingersoll, Samuel Aldama, let me see, Ms. Rain, that's Mizrain Orrego. And that's it from the top of my head, sir.
Have you ever been present when another deputy got that tattoo?
You mean as it was being administered?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And for whom were you present when that tattoo was administered?
Edwin Barajas and Taylor Ingersoll. I was there for Ruben Jimenez and James Cross. I was there for Reese Daniel Reese. And yeah, that's off the top of my head, for them.
And did they all get the tattoo at the same tattoo shop?
No.
Okay. How many different tattoo shops were involved in the tattoos that you just told me about?
So they weren't at a tattoo shop.
Okay. Where were those tattoos administered?
At a home.
Okay. And whose home was that?
It was different homes.
Okay. Has that tattoo ever been administered at your home?
Oh, hold on. All right, you can answer that question.
No.
Was the same tattoo artist used for all those tattoos of the individuals you just named?
No.
How many different tattoo artists administered the tattoos on the individuals that you just identified?
Approximately four or five.
And of those individuals you identified, who is the most recent to have that tattoo administered?
So the most recent one was I don't know if I probably forgot to mention it. Was Nicholas Bray.
I'm sorry, Nicholas, give me your last name.
I'm sorry, Bray. That's boy A-R-A-Y.
And approximately when was that tattoo administered?
Approximately a year and a half ago, 2 years.
And what location was the tattoo administered at?
I don't remember whose house that was. It might have been Omar Cabarrubias. I don't recall the exact location.
Were you involved in making the arrangements for Mr. Beret to be tattooed?
No.
Were you present?
Yes.
Okay. Now, any of the individuals you identified as having received that tattoo, strike that. Did you receive this tattoo from an artist, a tattoo artist who also applied it to any other person that you know?
Hold on. That question, you're asking about any tattoo that he got, correct, Mr. the witness?
So,
True?
yeah. And count,
All right.
yeah.
All right. Again, I think that is invasive of privacy. Mr. Juarez, you have a right of privacy. It's up to you whether you wish to waive it or not. Do you wish to assert it or waive it? What do you want to do?
I'm going to assert it, sir.
There we go.
Okay. I would like the court to mark that as number 2, and that's nonsensical. I don't see how someone can have a right of privacy in a tattoo that was given by a third party. I think that's lunacy. Counsel.
You know, I can ask, questions at a deposition, but that people object to. But I don't characterize objections as being nonsensical. I think that's just offensive, and there's no need for you to do that.
Or I retracted. Well, I retracted that it's a lunacy. I retract that. But I just like you to explain to me, because you're being obstructive here. If someone got a tattoo from a third party, how do you have a right of privacy if a third party gave you the tattoo? I'd like you to elaborate on that for me.
You know, I think the issue is self-evident, and I'm not going to debate it. Debates on these issues go nowhere. They accomplish nothing but burn up paper. So let's just proceed. He's asserted his right of privacy. You're stuck with it.
Well, I'm stuck with it for the time being until we go in front of Judge
Exactly.
Wire.
Fine. You want to do something about it later? Do something about it later. It's up to you.
All right. Is the tattoo you have identical to the tattoo that was administered to some of the other individuals that you described earlier?
That is, again, invasive of privacy. Mr. Juarez, do you wish to assert your right of privacy? He's asking, again, about a tattoo that may or may not be on your body. I think that is invasive of privacy. It's up to you to decide whether you wish to assert it or not.
I will assert it, sir.
Okay, that's number 3, not answered. I'll ask the court reporter to mark that question. I ask, who's the tattoo artist that applied this tattoo to your body?
Any question that suggests that he may even have a tattoo is potentially invasive of his right of privacy. You're going to keep on asking your questions. I guess you're determined to do that, and that's your right. Mr. Juarez, this again, I believe, is invasive of your right of privacy. It's the same question over and over again in a very slightly different form, but not a meaningful difference. So, do you wish to assert your right of privacy or not?
Yes, sir.
That's number 4. I'd ask the court order to mark that as question number 4. Mr. Juarez, do you have any tattoos on your body?
Same issue, Mr. Juarez. It's invasive of your right of privacy. If you wish to assert it, you may. It's up to you.
I do.
Okay, ask the court order to mark that as exhibit. I'm sorry, it's a refused question number 5. Have you shown any of the tattoos on your body to third persons?
All right. Hold on. I'm taking the position that any tattoo he has on his body is a matter of personal privacy. I don't know how he can answer this question without waiving that. And I don't wish him to waive a right that he has already asserted. So, Mr. Juarez, I believe this again is invasive of your right of privacy. You decide whether you wish to assert it or not.
I do, sir.
Okay. I'll ask court reporter to mark that as refusal to answer number 6. And again, I'm asking about third parties. I'm not asking about him. So I believe, again, that objection is nonsensical and it's obstructive to my right to discovery in this action.
Well, you'll note I didn't instruct him. I simply advised him of his right. He chose to assert it.
Okay. How many tattoos do you have on your body, Mr. Juarez?
Same. Again, this is again invasive of your right of privacy, Mr. Juarez. Do you wish to assert it or not?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Mark that. I'd ask corporate to mark that as an instruction not to answer number 7. Okay. Do you have a tattoo on your body for any that corresponds to any deputy clique or organized group that exists within the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department?
Same, again, invasive of privacy. It's up to you, Mr. Juarez, whether you wish to assert it or not. It's up to you.
I do assert it, sir.
Okay, so I'd ask corporate to mark that as question number 8, not answered.
You know, I really think the court reporter automatically notes every time a witness declines to answer. That's automatically done. And if you wish to keep on asking the reporter to do what is automatic, that's your election, but it happens anyway.
So, Mr. Peterson, you've ordered your witness not to answer most of my questions. You're trying to push me around to tell me how to do my job.
I'm trying to suggest how to make life easier for you, but you don't have to take that advice. Look, and I haven't been ordering anybody. I've been advising him, as is my obligation. Any lawyer has the obligation to inform clients of a invasion of privacy and allow the witness to decide whether they wish to assert it or not. That's all that's happened here.
Okay. Are you done with your speech, or would you like to interrupt my deposition further, Mr. Peterson?
I think I've made my point. Thank you.
And I'd ask that you refrain from interrupting my deposition further with admonitions on how I should conduct it.
I would ask you to stop referring to what I am doing as ordering my client when I've been simply informing him of his right of privacy, and then he decides whether he wishes to elect it or not. You are mischaracterizing what I am doing here, and I wish you would stop that.
Are you going to stop interrupting my deposition? I'm not going to proceed until you agree to stop interrupting my deposition with your speeches. Are you going to agree to stop interrupting my deposition?
I'm going to interrupt your deposition when I think your comments are inappropriate and are mischaracterizing what I am doing or what the witness is saying.
So you've spent more time talking by this point than the deponent has. So it's very inappropriate. You're covering up for a racist, violent deputy gang. You're inserting nonsensical.
Now you're engaging in ad hominem comments against the witness. Now, if you keep that up, this deposition is going to be over with in short order. You do not have the prerogative to use that kind of language with reference to this or any witness. That is grossly inappropriate and unprofessional.
Okay. Well, I'm going to repeat what I said. This is a racist, violent deputy gang that's engaged in murders. We're doing discovery with respect to same. This is a topic of great national significance. You're trying to cover this up. You won't even let him answer if he's shown tattoos to third parties, which is nonsensical. You have not stopped talking. You talk over me. You're being obstreperous. You're making this deposition impossible. Are you going to let me do this deposition, or are you going to continue obstructing?
It's rather clear. It's rather clear what you're up to, counsel. I think any judge reviewing the transcript is readily aware of what you're up to. So if you want to keep that up, you keep it up. Ask your next question. We're waiting.
Okay. Mr. Juarez, how many people have you shot at that didn't have guns?
How many people? All right, the question is argumentative as phrased, but I'm going to allow him to answer the question. So you can respond to the question.
I'd ask for you to stop. You can make your objections. You're speaking about what you think of my questions is obstructive and it's obnoxious. And I honestly expected better from your firm, but I'm not surprised. So
I've read prior transcript from your actions, Mr. Romero. I'm not surprised in the least. So let's go ahead. Look, I've told him to go ahead. Why don't you just listen for a moment
because you won't stop
and answer your question?
You won't stop talking. This is not your deposition. You know you have no real objections here. So I'd ask the court reporter to please read back the last question.
Mr. Juarez, how many people have you shot at that didn't have a gun?
You can respond. It is argumentative, but you can respond.
I shot at a carjacking suspect who attempted to run me over, and my girlfriend at the time with my own vehicle.
There was another time you shot at someone that didn't have a gun, wasn't there?
Pardon me. Again, argumentative, but you can respond.
No, sir. He had a weapon, only a gun. We just couldn't. We didn't recover it.
So the carjacker, you were actually disciplined for failure to use proper tactics in response to shooting at that car, weren't you?
Don't answer the question. Any question that pertains to the discipline of a sworn officer, he's not going to answer that. You have to get a pitches motion.
Are you going to take your attorney's instruction not to answer?
I am.
Okay, I'd ask the court reporter to mark that as number 9. And I'm going to put in Exhibit 3, which is actually your discipline that the department already gave us as part of a Public Records Act request. So this is public information. Put it here.
This is Exhibit 3?
Yes. And if you'd like me to email it to you, I can have my office email it to you because I know it's hard to see in this format where we're all sharing a screen.
Sure. Email it as well as show it on the screen if you would.
Ms. Quilling, if you can hear me, please email this to Mr. Peterson if you have his email. Okay, so let me find the document I'm referring to, the carjacking.
And the origin of this document, counsel, you made a comment about it.
Yes, this was produced several days ago pursuant to a Public Records Act request on the department. Okay. So looking at this document, do you see the document dated July 27th, 2006, Mr. Juarez?
The question,
I do.
Yeah, there we go.
I'm sorry, what was the response?
He said he did.
I do see it, sir.
Okay. The shooting you're describing where there was a carjacking, did that take place as described here on January 29th, 2006?
The question simply is, go ahead.
Yeah, I don't recall the exact date, but from this, it looks like it was July 27th, 2006.
Okay. Do you see here the last line of this document says the committee recommended that Deputy Jaime Juarez receive a written reprimand. Do you see that?
Question is simply whether you see it.
I do.
Is that accurate?
Don't answer the question. That pertains to discipline of a sworn peace officer. You need a pitches motion.
Okay, well, again, these are public documents, so I think any privilege has been waived. So let me, Deputy Juarez, are you refusing to answer whether or not this document is correct, that you were disciplined for discharging your firearm in 2000, on or about January 29th, 2006?
I've instructed you not to answer. Are you going to follow the instruction?
I am.
When was the second shooting that we discussed that an individual didn't turn out to have a gun in their possession when they were taken into custody? When was that?
I don't recall the exact year, sir. 2011, between 2010 and 2013, I believe.
Was that when you were assigned as a patrol deputy to Compton?
Yes.
Okay. When did the department take your gun away?
Pardon me. Don't answer the question. That pertains to, I think that pertains to discipline. The question is also argumentative. Don't answer the question.
Are you going to take your attorney's advice not to answer that question?
I am.
Okay. I asked Corporal Marquez, number 11. Was there a period of time where someone who would have walked into Compton Station would have seen you without your gun on your belt while on duty?
That you can answer.
No.
Okay. Were you a watch deputy for a period of time at Compton Station?
No.
Okay. Were you a scheduling deputy for a period of time at Compton Station?
Yes.
Okay. How long were you a scheduling deputy at Compton Station?
Approximately 4 years.
During that period of time that you were a scheduling deputy, how long a period of time would someone have seen you without your gun on your duty belt while you were on duty?
Question is argumentative. It assumes facts, not in evidence, but you can respond.
Never.
Okay. Were you ever on duty in uniform without your gun on your belt?
Good answer.
Yes.
What were the circumstances?
If the answer pertains to any discipline, you may not speak about that. That you are instructed not to answer. Other than that, you can answer. Do you understand?
Yes, sir. So maybe if I was going straight upstairs to the office, I would just leave it in my locker.
Does the Shooting Analysis Committee discipline officers?
You can answer that question.
Yes.
Okay. Did you ever have a case pending in front of the Shooting Analysis Committee?
Don't answer the question. It pertains to discipline of a sworn officer. You need a pitches motion. Don't answer it.
Okay. Are you going to take your attorney's instruction not to answer?
I am.
I'd ask Corporal to mark that as refusal number 13. Who was your captain at Compton Station during the period of time that you were scheduling deputy?
Captain Thatcher and Lieutenant Waldy.
What was Captain Thatcher's first name?
Michael.
Okay. Did you ever exchange text messages with Commander Michael Thatcher?
No.
Did you ever communicate with him through any instant messaging app on your phone?
No, never.
Okay. Did you ever exchange emails with Commander Thatcher?
Work-related emails, yes.
Did you ever have Commander Thatcher's personal cell phone number?
No.
Did you ever discuss getting your gun back with Commander Michael Thatcher?
That potentially is invasive of issues of discipline, and it's ambiguous, it's argumentative, and I'm going to instruct him not to answer. I believe you need a pitches motion on that.
I'm just asking if you talked about it. I'm not asking.
Counsel, I don't argue or debate these things. It's pointless. Just if you got a problem with it, take it up with the court later.
You've been doing nothing but arguing with me all day, so I'd ask you to stop gaslighting us all, because that's.
Oh, just get off your high horse for a moment and just ask questions, will you, please?
Well, I'd ask that you stop making frivolous objections that are preventing me from getting any meaningful discovery as part of this deposition.
And I wish you would stop debating things when I give an instruction, where I make an objection. We don't have to talk about it. Nothing is accomplished there. You're just wasting time. Please move ahead.
I couldn't have found a better descriptor from what you're doing today. It's wasting time. So I'd ask the court reporter to mark that as question number 14, whether or not he discussed getting his gun back from Michael Thatcher.
This back and forth between counsel is really amateurish. Please, just get on with the depo.
Well, if this is amateur hour, you're the MC. So thank you for showing us what you think is amateurish. I agree.
This is like the 8th grade.
I agree, and you're the class president, so I'd ask that you stop bothering me and let me do my depo. So moving on with the next question.
Aren't you embarrassed by any of this?
I'm embarrassed by your behavior, big time. I agree. Yeah, thank you for asking. So next question, unless counsel wants to interrupt me again. How many shootings were you involved in at Compton Station?
4.
Okay. Is that so? In total, how many times did you have an incident where you discharged your service firearm in your entire career with the department? More than 4?
I'm sorry. So 3 at Compton and 1 when I was assigned to Men's Central Jail. So 4 total.
Thank you. But just to clarify, you had 3 officer-involved shootings when you were at Compton. Is that correct?
Correct.
What's your current unit of assignment?
I am currently assigned to logistics.
And what are your job duties at logistics?
I issue like new classes, new recruits, their equipment. We also issue ballistic vests to deputies. We upgrade weapons for deputies, stuff like that, sir.
Are you involved? Do you have any armorer duties?
Can you be more specific?
Do you fix or distribute firearms to other deputies?
Distribute, yes, but not fix.
How long have you been assigned to logistics?
Approximately a year and a half, sir.
Okay. And what was your assignment immediately preceding your assignment to logistics?
I was assigned to Compton Station Patrol.
And at Compton Station Patrol, what shift were you working? Immediately preceding your transfer.
I believe it was a PM shift.
Had you ever served as an FTO at Compton Station?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the question.
Had you ever served as a TO or training officer at Compton Station?
Thank you.
Yes.
How long?
Approximately 6 months.
Do you know what year that was?
I believe it was 2019, 2018, late 2018, early 2019, I believe.
Why did you stop serving as a TO?
Again, if anything that pertains to discipline, you may not discuss. If anything else, you may. Go ahead.
I was transferred to logistics.
So you were a TO until you got transferred to your latest assignment, is that correct?
Correct.
When did you first meet Lieutenant Larry Waldy?
I met Lieutenant Waldy at a Baker to Vegas weekend. I'm assuming, or yeah, a weekend. It was Baker to Vegas.
Let me take a step back. I had just a couple more questions on the transfer. Was your transfer to logistics part of a regular breakup within the department?
Ambiguous. You can respond.
No.
Were you overnighted to your current assignment?
I wouldn't consider it an overnight, no.
If it wasn't part of a breakup and it wasn't overnight, what were the circumstances leading to your reassignment to the best you understand them? Because I don't know.
So overnight means they tell you and you leave. That's what I consider overnight. Like, hey, tomorrow you start here. At Compton, they told me in 3 weeks, I believe it was, you're going to be assigned to logistics.
Okay. How many other deputies were reassigned at the same time as you were from Compton?
Okay, hold on, it's ambiguous. You mean reassigned to logistics or reassigned anywhere?
The question was anywhere.
Okay. You can answer.
Approximately five or so, I believe 5.
And can you identify those deputies to the best of your recollection, please?
Yes, so it was myself, Edgar Cuevas, Edwin Barajas, Miguel Vega, Christopher Hernandez. Yeah, those were the ones that left with me.
Hey, do you know if Miguel Vega and Chris Hernandez are still employed by the Sheriff's Department?
Last I heard, they were relieved of duty.
You may not refer to any discipline of anybody else, not just yourself, but anybody. Okay?
Okay. And the other 3 deputies you identified, did they have the tattoo you saw on the flag as Exhibit 2?
Read the question back, Ms. Reporter.
And the other 3 deputies you identified, did they have the tattoo you saw on the flag in Exhibit 2?
That you can answer.
3? Are you talking about the 5 that left, or let me see, 1, 2, 3.
But let me rephrase.
Yep.
You're correct. So I'll say, of the 5 that left at the same time you did, how many of those had the tattoo in Exhibit 2?
So 2.
Now, the tattoo in Exhibit 2, do you remember the tattoo? Do you remember the image? Do you need me to pull it up, or we're talking about the same image? Do you remember it from Exhibit 2, the flag?
Yes.
Okay, I just want to go back to his previous answer. I did not get it. You asked him how many of those who were transferred at the same time had the tattoo that was depicted in the flag we looked at, and I didn't get his answer. What was the answer? Ms. Reporter? 2, thank you. Go ahead.
Okay, Ms. Corport, if you could read my last question back.
Sure. Now, the Exhibit 2, do you remember the tattoo? Excuse me, do you remember the image, or do you need me to pull it up? Or do you remember it, the flag from Exhibit 2? And that's... Oh.
That's fine. Do you remember the image I'm talking about, the skeleton with the helmet from Exhibit 2?
I do.
Okay. Does a tattoo on someone's body of that image connotate membership of a group?
ambiguous, lacks foundation, and calls for speculation. You can respond.
I wouldn't say, I wouldn't consider it a membership, no.
Is there a group of deputies that have that tattoo that refer to themselves as a group with a name?
Argumentative, lacks foundation. You can respond. Also, yeah,
No.
ambiguous. Go ahead.
No.
Have you ever heard the term executioners used with respect to deputies at Compton Station?
Ambiguous, you can respond. You're not to refer to conversations with counsel, nor are you to refer to any conversations that pertain to any discipline or investigation for discipline. Other than that, you can respond.
I have.
Where have you heard that term used?
The news media.
Okay. Have you ever heard that term used at the station?
Never.
Have you ever heard deputies at Compton Station referring to deputies with that tattoo as being part of the same group?
Hold on. Again, the question is ambiguous, but you can respond.
I've never heard other deputies talk about it, no.
But just to be clear, your testimony today is that getting that tattoo in your body does not connotate membership in any group. Is that correct?
To me personally, no.
Okay. How about to others?
That calls for speculation as to the thought processes of another. It's ambiguous and argumentative, and it lacks foundation. But if you have a response, you can make it.
I'd ask that you stop coaching him. So if you want to make a speaking, you're going to get all upset now and give me a big lecture. Objections are fine. I will allow you. I will encourage you to make objections. But if you're telling him, oh, it wants him to think about what other people are thinking, that's a bit much, sir. I'd ask you.
That is part of the objection, that it calls for the thought processes of another. I make that objection all the time in court, and nobody but you seems to have a problem with it. So I'll continue to make it as I have for decades now, and you'll just have to live with it or do something about it. Okay.
Well, the bastion of last resort is people saying, I've been doing this wrong for 30 years, so therefore it must be right. So I disagree, sir, and I again ask you to refrain from making speaking objections. They're disruptive. Go ahead.
It's a speaking objection. It's an appropriate objection, and it's one I will continue making. So you're just going to have to live with it, I guess, or do something about it. It's your choice.
Well, I will do something about it. So I'd ask the court reporter to read back the last question. I apologize for the colloquy.
So it says, you asked the question, so just to be clear, your testimony today is that getting the tattoo on your body is does not connotate membership in any group. Is that correct? To me personally, no was the answer.
Okay, so the next question was, does getting that tattoo on someone's body, to your knowledge, I mean, did you hear someone saying this connotates membership in any group? Did you hear that?
Never.
Okay. Did deputies arrange for other deputies to get that tattoo?
Yes.
Okay. Which deputies do you know arranged for other deputies to get that tattoo? Identify both ends of that transaction, please.
Can you be more specific, sir? Arrange? What do you mean by arrange?
Set up either use their house or set up the tattoo artist. That's what I have in mind. If you have any, so let me ask you, in fact, okay? Whose houses were these tattoos applied at that you're aware of? The Exhibit 2 tattoos.
So off the top of my head, I know we used Omar Cabarrubia's house was used. Ruben Jimenez's house. And yeah, that's two they used for that.
So there's a group of deputies that have the same tattoo, right?
Hold on. Object to the word group as ambiguous and argumentative. You can respond.
Yeah, I wouldn't consider it a group, but there's deputies that have the same tattoo, yes.
I'll read the definition of group from Merriam-Webster. It says a number of people or things that are together or in the same place, a number of people who are connected by some shared activity, interest, or quality, a number of things that are related in some way. So based on that definition, the dictionary definition, is there a group of deputies at Compton Station that has the same tattoo from Exhibit 2?
Same objections, ambiguous and argumentative. You can respond.
Again, sir, I'm not going to say the word. I don't consider it a group, but there's deputies that have the same tattoo, yes.
Why do they have the same tattoo?
Lacks foundation, calls for speculation. You can respond.
It's a station tattoo. They work Compton Station.
So anyone that works at Compton Station can get that tattoo without being objected to by other deputies?
Any deputy could get whatever tattoo they want, sir.
But isn't it true the department prohibits deputies from getting tattoos which signify that they're a member of a deputy clique?
No, sir.
What's your understanding of the current department policy outlining deputy subgroups, or excuse me, prohibiting deputy subgroups? What do you understand about that policy? What is it?
Read it back. I'm sorry, counsel. Sometimes when you speak rapidly, I lose part of the question. Ms. Reporter, read it back, please.
What is your understanding of the current department policy outlining deputy subgroups, or excuse me, prohibiting deputy subgroups? What do you know about that policy?
All right, ambiguous, you can respond.
So as long as there's nothing criminal or they're violating department policy, then they're not in violation.
Are there multiple station tattoos at Compton Station?
Yes.
How many tattoos are considered station tattoos at Compton Station?
To my knowledge, there's 2.
Okay. And can you describe those 2 tattoos to me, how they look?
So one of them looks like your Exhibit 3, the flag.
Exhibit.
The skeleton. Yes. And then the other one, it looks like a I don't know what to call them, a gladiator or an axeman. It's like a figure with a helmet and an axe.
Is that deputy group called the Gladiators?
Pardon me. It lacks foundation. It assumes facts not in evidence. It's argumentative. You can respond to the question.
To my knowledge, there's no name to it. They don't call themselves the gladiators, no.
How many deputies have you seen the gladiator looking tattoo on?
Approximately 5.
Okay. Are they part of a group, the gladiator group?
Argumentative, ambiguous, you can respond.
Again, I don't believe there's a name to it, so no.
You know who decides who gets the gladiator tattoo?
That assumes facts not in evidence and is argumentative. You can respond.
Again, I'm pretty sure they don't. The name for that tattoo is not the gladiators, but no, I don't.
Have you ever been involved in deciding who gets the Exhibit 2 tattoo?
Yes.
Tell me about that process.
So it's the pretty much the line deputies, the deputies that work patrol, that they decide if they see a deputy who's a leader at the station, who conducts himself in a professional manner, who serve the public and the department with honor and respect. They conduct ethical, proactive police work. They're a leader. They step up during critical incidents. They mentor younger deputies. Those are the deputies they decide on.
When you say they decide on, who's they? Who decides who gets it?
It changes. It's pretty much the deputies assigned to the line. They call it the line, who are actually working patrol.
Does someone have to be nominated to get that tattoo by someone within the, strike that, let me try again. Does someone get nominated to get that tattoo by someone who already has that tattoo?
I wouldn't say the word nominated, but they will bring them up, yes.
Bring them up where or how?
Could be in the, whenever they have lunch, or if they're around other people, they'll talk about them.
Have you ever had a get together with other deputies after another deputy was given that Exhibit 2 tattoo?
I'm sorry. Read it back, Mr. Porter.
Have you ever had a get-together with other deputies after another deputy was given that Exhibit 2 tattoo?
Well, the question is ambiguous, but you can respond.
Yes.
Okay. Did you ever refer to those as inking parties?
No.
Have you ever heard anyone refer to those events as inking parties?
Yes.
Who have you heard refer to those get-togethers as inking parties?
I don't know off the top of my head, sir, but I have heard the term, yes.
How many inking parties related to the Exhibit 2 tattoo have you been present at?
Approximately 7.
Okay. Can you identify the deputies who got the tattoo who were being recognized at that inking party?
Yes. Off the top of my head, Edwin Barajas, Taylor Ingersoll, Nicholas Beret, Ruben Jimenez, James Cross, Danny Reese. Yeah, those people.
Okay. Now, of all the people you've seen with the Exhibit 2 tattoo, which one do you know got it the earliest in time? Who got it first of the people you know?
The names I mentioned?
Yeah, so who had it first out of all the names you've mentioned?
So, I don't recall, sir.
Okay. Now, you said that names were sometimes brought up in terms of being able to get this tattoo. Were Miguel Vega and Chris Hernandez's names ever brought up as people who are engaged in this type of good policing that you discussed?
No, never.
Did there have to be a consensus within this group in terms of who got the Exhibit 2 tattoo? Did a certain number of people have to agree?
Again, what is your question? You've got two questions in there, and you've inserted the word group into one, but not in the other. So what's the question?
We have the court reporter read it back.
Does there have to be a consensus within this group in terms of who got the tattoo or the Exhibit 2 tattoo? Do people have to agree?
All right. The question is ambiguous and argumentative and lacks foundation. You can respond.
Again, sir, I wouldn't consider them a group, but yes, the majority has to agree.
Okay. How many people make up the majority?
It varies. Who was assigned to patrol at the time? It changes. It varies.
Well, the last time, who was the last person that got the Exhibit 2 tattoo based on a majority vote?
Again, the word vote is ambiguous and argumentative, but you can respond.
Yeah, so it was Nicholas Beret.
And how many people voted on Nicholas Beret's membership?
Again, argumentative and ambiguous, you can respond.
Again, I wouldn't consider it a membership, but I don't know. I wasn't there.
Okay. Did you vote for Nicholas Beret to get this tattoo?
I wasn't there, sir.
Okay. This was after you were transferred?
I believe so, yes.
Who's the last person you voted for to get the tattoo in Exhibit 2?
Again, I wouldn't consider it a vote, but agreed on was Taylor Ingersoll.
How many people voted for Taylor Ingersoll to get this tattoo?
Again, ambiguous and argumentative as to that word, you can respond.
So again, I wouldn't consider it a vote, but I believe there was about 5 people there.
5 people where?
When they agreed on it.
Where did this agreement take place?
I don't recall.
Was it in person or via electronic messaging?
In person.
Was it at someone's house?
I really don't recall, sir.
Were the agreements recorded in any book?
No.
Is there any book or document that exists anywhere that you're aware of that reflects agreements that people should get the Exhibit 2 tattoo?
There's no such thing.
Why did you agree that Taylor Ingersoll merited getting this tattoo?
Again, Taylor Ingersoll was a hardworking deputy who conducted himself in a professional manner and served the public of Compton and the department in a respectful manner.
Did this have anything to do with the officer-involved shooting that Taylor Ingersoll was involved in shortly before that?
No, this was before.
Who was Taylor Ingersoll's partner on the date of that shooting I'm discussing? Do you recall who that was?
When they were shot at with an AK-47, sir?
Yes.
Edwin Barajas.
Did Edwin Barajas get that tattoo before Taylor Ingersoll?
No.
Did he get it after Taylor Ingersoll?
No, they got it at the same time.
Were you present when they got the tattoo?
Yes.
Do you recall whose home that took place in?
I believe it was Omar Cabarrubas' house.
Do you know who the tattoo artist was?
I don't.
When you were the scheduling deputy at Compton Station, did you ever arrange for more than one deputy to get the night off in order to attend an evening party?
No.
Were you in control of the scheduling at Compton Station as the scheduling deputy?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that question. Read it back, Mr.
I had a hard time too. Can you repeat it for me?
Sure.
I thought you said, yeah, if you could repeat it, that'd be great.
Real quick, we're getting some feedback. Does anyone have any idea where that's coming from?
I'm not hearing any feedback.
I might be.
It sounds like almost like a fax machine in the background.
I think we'll work through it. I think it's Mr. Peterson's because he has the green border at all times, so it sounds like there's feedback. Okay, I'll repeat the question. Doesn't matter. We'll work through this. Well, I forgot. Okay, I remember the question now. The question is, were you in charge of scheduling for all patrol deputies when you were assigned as the scheduling deputy at Compton Station?
In charge, yes. Of the schedules, yes. And I had a supervisor, sergeant.
And who was your supervisor at that time?
I had a couple sergeants, sir.
Tell me who they were.
Okay. I'll start from the newest was Sergeant Joseph Rodriguez, Sergeant Andy Leos, Sergeant, I don't remember his first name, but it's Sergeant Kim, Sergeant Stephen DeJong, that's D-E-J-O-N-G, Sergeant Mark Lopez, and that's it.
And they were what? They were the scheduling sergeants, or what? Or training and scheduling? What was their title?
Yes, the scheduling and training and scheduling sergeant.
Why did you leave that position to go back to patrol?
Well, I'm sorry. I'm difficulty hearing that. Read it, this reporter.
Why did you leave that position to go back to patrol?
I wanted to go back to patrol and make a difference in the city and serve the residents of Compton.
How long were you off patrol prior to that?
Prior to the scheduling position, sir?
So, including the scheduling position, let me rephrase the question. So I strike the last question. Of all your time at Compton Station, how much time did you spend not on patrol?
The 4 years I was a scheduling deputy.
Counsel, I'm going to be taking a break at 1:15 just so that you can plan.
That's fine. And yeah, that's fine. We'll do that. When was Lieutenant Larry Waldy first assigned as the acting captain of Compton? In fact, correct that question. When did you first meet Larry Waldy?
I met him at Baker to Vegas.
Okay. When was the first time you met him in terms of working together in the same unit?
I don't recall when he got to Compton Station as a lieutenant.
But when he first got to Compton Station as lieutenant, do you remember his assignment?
Yes, he was a watch commander.
And was he the watch commander for your shift when you first got there?
So when he arrived at Compton Station, I was a scheduling deputy.
And were you in charge of schedules for all shifts?
Yes.
So let's take a break a little early. How long would you like to take, Mr. Peterson?
10 minutes.
Okay, and just a heads up, we're getting really bad feedback. This is, I swear I'm being so kind about this, okay? We're getting real bad feedback from your, I don't know if you want to unplug your webcam and try it again, but it seems to be your webcam is lit up. I'm not pointing fingers. I want everyone to have a clear hearing and clear understanding. So
I'll be happy to leave the meeting and then come back in.
come back at 11:25, shall we?
Fine.
Okay, thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Okay, we are now off the record. The time is 11:13 a.m. We are now back on the record. The time is 11:28 a.m. Pacific time.
Deputy Juarez, do you recall the first interaction you had with Larry Waldy professionally at Compton Station?
No, I don't.
Do you recall any interactions you had with Larry Waldy while he was assigned to Compton Station?
Yes.
How frequently would you interact with Larry Waldy when he was the watch commander?
Not as much as when he was the watch commander, no.
Did you have any interaction with him at the station while he was the watch commander professionally?
I don't recall. I'm pretty sure I did, but I don't recall.
Did you have any interactions with him when he became the acting captain of Compton Station?
Yes.
Did you have any interactions with Larry Waldy in his office, in the captain's office at Compton Station?
I don't believe in the captain's office, no.
Approximately how many interactions did you have with acting captain Larry Waldy at Compton Station?
You know, by interaction, I assume you're referring to something more than just saying hello. That's an interaction. It's ambiguous. All right, the question is ambiguous.
So he was the ops lieutenant before he became the acting captain, and believe he was up there a year and a half, 2 years, and I was a scheduling deputy. I worked right below him, so I probably saw him, I don't know, 5 times a day at the minimum.
Would you speak to him 5 times a day, or you laid eyes on him 5 times a day?
We would speak.
What would you speak about on a regular 5 times a day basis?
Different things, work. If he needed something, he would ask me how my weekend was. I would talk to him about his weekend, stuff like that.
But would he come down? So I'm just trying to understand what goes on at the station between an acting captain and the scheduling deputy. Does he need to come down and speak to you? Do you need to speak to him, or do you guys operate independently?
No, I pretty much worked right below him I did as a scheduling deputy.
Okay. Did Lieutenant Waldy have any input on how you schedule deputies for patrol?
Yes.
How so?
So if he needed, or the station needed somebody at, sometimes deputies get into too many traffic collisions and they can't drive. They got to be bookman, or they want them to be working dispatch. He would come and tell me, so like that I can make the changes.
How many times did that happen?
I lost track, sir. A lot.
Like dozens of times?
In the 2 years, yeah, I'm guessing 20 times maybe.
Are you aware of there being an arrest quota at any time at Compton Station?
No.
Did anyone ever talk to you about arrest stats during your time at Compton Station?
Yes.
And who was that?
Well, Lieutenant Waldy.
And how many times did you discuss arrest stats with Lieutenant Waldy?
So, I don't know, sir. Maybe five, 6.
What was the substance of those conversations with Lieutenant Waldy about arrest stats?
So every quarter, Lieutenant Waldy would go to a meeting, a quarterly meeting, I think once a quarter, and they would give them a breakdown of like crime statistics and arrest status and stuff like that, a breakdown of everything for each station, and he would send it out to the whole station.
Okay. And what was your part in that process?
He would reach out to me, and he knew me being a deputy. He would ask me, "Hey, or what's going on with just to get a feeling of how morale was at the station.
Did you ever tell him morale was bad?
I did.
How many times?
I believe it was once or twice.
And why was morale bad at the station, to the best of your understanding, at that time?
Thank you.
Okay, so morale was down because when Lieutenant Waldy was the acting captain, he would assign deputies that had his same station tattoo to coveted positions.
Can you give me some examples of that?
Yes, so he was showing favoritism, and it was Ricardo Eguia, Ricardo Garcia Toscano, Joseph Rodriguez, Calvin Lane.
Okay. And what promotions did those individuals obtain?
So I believe it was the Detective Bureau, or DB, the training and scheduling sergeant, a task force, homicide task force, then training deputy.
Okay. Were those individuals the most qualified for those positions, in your opinion?
No.
Okay. During the same period of time, did anyone with the Exhibit 2 tattoo also get a promotion?
I'm sorry. Read it back, Ms. Reporter.
During the same period of time, did anyone with the Exhibit 2 tattoo also get a promotion?
Thank you.
From Lieutenant Waldy?
During that period of time that you're complaining about, that you said that the people with the gladiator tattoo were getting promoted, did anyone with the Exhibit 2 tattoo also get promoted during the same period of time?
Okay, you've inserted a word. It's argumentative and lacks foundation, but you can respond. It's also ambiguous.
I'm not complaining, sir.
Let me try that one more time. During the period of time that these people with the gladiator tattoo were promoted, was anyone else with the Exhibit 2 tattoo also promoted during that same period of time?
Again, it's argumentative and ambiguous. You can respond.
So, can you be more specific? Because people promote, let's say, to sergeant or something else where Lieutenant Waldy has nothing to do with the process.
So are you saying that Lieutenant Waldy was favoring his group with the tattoo?
Oh, look. Argumentative, lacks foundation, ambiguous as to the word group. Go ahead.
So again, I wouldn't consider it a group, but in my personal opinion, yes.
So he was helping other people with the same tattoo, but they weren't a group, is what you're saying?
Correct.
So if they weren't a group, why is he helping them out?
Lacks foundation, calls for speculation. You can respond.
Again, sir, because they had the same station tattoo.
So they had something in common, right?
Yes.
And because they had something in common, they are going to look out for each other? Is that what you're saying?
Lacks foundation, calls for speculation. You can respond. It's also ambiguous. You can respond.
Lieutenant Waldy did look out for them, yes.
So the person that replaced you as the scheduling deputy, did that person have a gladiator tattoo?
Again, it's argumentative. It lacks foundation. You can respond.
Again, sir, I don't know what a gladiator tattoo is.
Didn't you describe it to me earlier in detail?
No, he said just the opposite. We covered this long ago.
Have you ever seen a gladiator tattoo at Compton Station?
Okay. argumentative, lacks foundation, assumes facts not in evidence. You can respond.
I don't know of a station tattoo at Compton Station named the Gladiator, sir.
Have you ever seen a tattoo on people at Compton Station? Let me strike that. Do you recall telling me earlier today that you recall seeing a station tattoo that was a gladiator? Do you recall telling me that?
Misstates testimony, you can respond. It's argumentative. You can respond.
Yeah, I never mentioned that a station tattoo was named the Gladiator, sir.
Okay. Did it look like a gladiator?
I don't think so.
Okay. Did Lieutenant Wally have that tattoo?
Have what tattoo? Ambiguous. What? It's argumentative and it's ambiguous. What tattoo?
The one I just asked the last 7 questions in a row about.
Yeah, you keep referring to it as a gladiator tattoo, and he testified he doesn't recognize it as a gladiator tattoo. So you keep on inserting that, like you keep inserting the word group, and he's told you he doesn't recognize a group, but you keep on putting it in there, and that forces me to make these objections, which I'd rather not do.
I agree. I would rather you not make objections that you don't understand basic words that I've defined from the Webster's Dictionary.
Now you turned into an ad hominem thing.
No,
You know,
it's not.
you learn this stuff. Can we just stop calling it a gladiator tattoo unless he's willing to acknowledge there is such a thing? Stop calling it a group unless he's willing to acknowledge there is a group. We go over the same thing over and over again.
Is Lieutenant Wally a member of the gladiator group?
Argumentative and assumes facts not in evidence. You can respond.
I don't know what a gladiator group is, sir.
Okay. So what is this group that you claim Waldy's helping people out in?
Again, assumes facts not in evidence, and it's argumentative, and it misstates testimony. You can respond.
Again, sir, I didn't call them a group. They just have the same station tattoo.
Okay. And does Waldy have that station tattoo?
You can answer.
Which one, sir?
You tell me. You're the one that saw it. What station tattoo does he have?
So Lieutenant Waldy has the station tattoo that has a helmet and carrying an axe.
Okay. Is there a shield involved in the tattoo?
I believe so.
Okay. Have you ever seen a gladiator movie or a TV show with gladiators in it?
I have.
Did those gladiators have helmets and an axe and a shield like the one you saw in the tattoo on Lieutenant Waldy?
No, not necessarily.
But did some of them?
I refer to the same exact helmet and axe and stuff like that.
No, just a helmet and an axe and a shield.
Yeah, I'm guessing that they have one too, yes.
How do you know Lieutenant Waldy has that tattoo?
So that tattoo, I've seen them in the locker room.
Okay. You've seen the tattoo on Larry Waldy in the locker room?
Yes, locker room and when he wears shorts.
Okay. Where on his body is that tattoo located?
On his ankle.
Okay. Do you have a tattoo in the same location?
Don't answer the question. Let me put it this way. Let me withdraw the instruction. This question is invasive of your personal privacy, in my opinion. It's up to you whether you wish to assert it or not. What do you want to do?
I will assert it.
Thank you.
As corporate to Marcus 15, I just would like to indicate for the record that we spent the last 10 questions talking about someone else's tattoo, and there was no objections about privacy, but now there is. So,
No, I can explain it to you if you want to listen, but I don't imagine you do.
I really don't. So
That's what I thought.
what other tattoos have you seen on Lieutenant Waldy?
That's the only one.
And how many times did you see it on him?
Approximately three, 4 times.
Did Lieutenant Waldy, strike that, did you ever observe Lieutenant Waldy looking at any tattoo on your body?
assumes, pardon me, the question again is invasive of personal privacy, the way it is phrased. So again, I'm going to inform you, Mr. Deputy Juarez, it's up to you whether you wish to assert a right of privacy or not.
I will.
Thank
That's
you.
important to mark that as number 16 not answered. Did you ever see any other station tattoos? Strike that. What was your unit of assignment prior to coming to Compton Station?
I worked men's central jail.
So where specifically at MCJ were you assigned?
I worked the 3000 floor.
Is it common for deputies who work the 3000 floor to end up working patrol at Compton Station?
Ambiguous. Pardon. I'm sorry, it sounded like there was something else going on. Could you either repeat it or have the court reporter repeat it?
Madam?
Is it common for deputies that work the 3000 floor to end up working patrol at Compton Station?
Again, the question is ambiguous. You can respond.
Not all.
I'm beginning now to hear little squeaks that are coming in, and occasionally it's not common, but it is happening, and that is causing me to ask for questions to be repeated. So go ahead, next question.
Mr. Peterson, if you turn off your cell phone, that might help.
My cell phone is not on.
Okay.
Would you be willing to try to mute it and only come in when you need to give an objection, or does that make you uncomfortable?
No, I have to move faster than that. The question.
Okay, sounds good.
Rapidly.
Okay.
Maybe after the break, he can unplug and replug in the device or something.
Look, there are no electronic devices that I have other than this computer going on. Nothing else.
Okay. Well, we're just letting you know because it's almost impossible to hear. It's really disruptive, but we'll do our best.
Yeah.
Okay. How many of the deputies you worked with at the 3000 floor ended up as patrol deputies at Compton?
So I worked Compton Station for 12 years, so I'm gonna say approximately between 20 and 30, maybe.
Did you do any ride-alongs at Compton Station prior to your permanent assignment?
I did.
And who were those ride-alongs with?
I don't recall, sir. I would email the scheduling deputy at the time, and they would plug me in with different people.
Approximately how many ride-alongs did you do at Compton Station prior to you being assigned there as a hard item?
Between 10 and 20.
Over how long a period of time?
I believe a year and a half, 2 years.
Did any of the deputies that participate in your ride-alongs have the tattoo in Exhibit 2?
I wouldn't know, sir.
Would you say that Compton is the #1 patrol assignment for deputies who transition from the 3000 floor to patrol?
Pardon me. Lacks foundation, argumentative, calls for speculation. You can respond.
I wouldn't say that, sir. Deputies go to other places as well.
But do you know of any other patrol station that has had 20 to 30 deputies assigned from the 3000 floor in the last 12 years?
Me personally, no, but I'm sure there is.
Did any of the deputies you worked with at 3000 floor who were assigned to patrol go to any other patrol stations?
Can you repeat the question, please?
Sure. So the deputies you work with at 3000 floor, that's what I'm asking about. Did any of those deputies end up at other patrol stations anywhere?
Yes.
What other stations? I'm not going to ask you for names, but just what stations did they end up at?
I mean, countywide, Norwalk, Lomita, Carson, South LA, Century. Yeah, I don't keep track of everybody's career, sir.
Okay. Did you ever have any, strike that. So let's go back a bit to, Lieutenant Waldy talking to you about your arrest stats. You recall having conversations with Lieutenant Waldy about your arrest stats.
This is about his arrest stats.
First I'm gonna ask about your arrest stats. That never happened?
No, you can answer the question.
Did Sergeant Andy Leos ever talk to you about your arrest stats?
No.
Did Lieutenant Waldy ever talk to you about the station arrest stats?
Yes.
How many times?
I believe it was between 3, 4, 5 times.
And what were the substances of those conversations?
Yeah. Again, he would go to those meetings, and they would give him the arrest per deputy report, and he would just ask me about morale at the station.
Did you did you recommend a particular deputy to take over your position as scheduling deputy?
I believe it was 3 or 4 names.
Okay. Who are those 3 or 4 names?
So my first pick was Wanda Valiente. Second was Keith French, and Anthony Bautista.
Okay. Did any of those 3 have the Exhibit 2 tattoo?
Yes.
Okay. Which ones?
Anthony Bautista.
Okay. And how is that different than, in fact, strike that question. Did you have a dispute with Acting Captain Waldy about who would be replacing you as the scheduling deputy?
Argumentative and ambiguous. You can respond.
No.
Did you ever threaten to shut down the station to Captain Waldy?
No.
Did you ever threaten to engage in a work slowdown at Compton Station to Lieutenant Waldy?
No.
Is the scheduling deputy position a coveted position?
All right, hold on. The question is ambiguous, argumentative, and lacks foundation, but you can respond.
I wouldn't consider it a coveted position.
Is it a position that requires coveted testing?
No.
Okay. Does the scheduling deputy position control the schedule for all the line deputies at the station?
I wouldn't say they control it, but they do generate the schedule.
Okay. Did a work slowdown occur at Compton Station in February 2019?
Ambiguous and argumentative, you can respond.
No.
Did deputies at Compton Station intentionally stay in the parking lot when they should have been on patrol in the years 2019?
I'm sorry, sir. Can I have you start over? I didn't get the first part of that. I got feedback.
Sure. Are you aware of any deputies that were assigned to patrol duties who were intentionally not patrolling during the period of 2019 to 2020?
No.
Did you ever threaten Lieutenant Waldy that if your candidates didn't get chosen to fill your position, you would take any retaliatory action against him?
No.
Did you ever have any conversation with Commander Thatcher about returning to patrol?
Yes.
On how many occasions?
Believe two or three.
Okay. Were these in person?
Yes.
And where did these conversations take place?
In the captain's office at Compton.
So this was prior to Lieutenant Walter being appointed as acting captain, correct?
Correct.
And what was the substance of these conversations?
So he would, I guess there was a review every couple months, and he would just give me an update. That's it. Just give me an update of where it was.
When you say where you were you trying to get back on patrol?
I was.
Why is that?
Because I enjoy patrol.
Did Lieutenant Wally ever transfer you away from Compton Station?
I don't know.
Were you assigned to Industry Station at any point in your career?
Assigned to what?
Industry Station.
Oh, industry, thank you.
I was.
When did that take place?
I believe it was July 2019.
Okay. Do you know why you were transferred to Industry Station?
No.
Okay. Do you know, strike that, did you ask anyone why you were being transferred to another station?
No.
Okay. Did you ask Thatcher why you were being transferred to Industry Station?
No.
Did you ask Wally why you were being transferred to Industry Station?
No.
Was this a planned transfer to Industry Station?
Lax foundation calls for speculation. It's also ambiguous. You can respond.
No.
Was this a voluntary transfer to Industry Station?
No.
Is the reason you didn't ask anyone why you were being given an involuntary transfer to Industry Station because you knew why you were being transferred already?
All right. The question is argumentative and assumes facts not in evidence. You can respond.
No.
Why were you transferred to Industry Station?
You've already asked that question. He's already answered it. Lax foundation calls for speculation.
I don't know.
Were you later transferred back to Compton Station?
I was.
After how long?
I believe it was approximately 4 months.
Okay. And during your 3 to 4 months at Industry Station, were you working patrol?
Yes.
What shift?
PM shift.
And who was your captain at that time?
At industry?
Yeah.
I don't recall. I don't know. I actually don't know.
Did you meet with the captain upon your assignment to Industry Station?
No, I didn't.
Is it customary for the captain to meet with new assignees to their patrol stations?
Calls for speculation, Lax foundation. You can respond.
I can only speak for Compton Station. And yes, the captain does meet with new personnel.
Did you meet with the captain at Compton Station when you were first assigned there as a patrol deputy?
Yes.
And who is that captain?
I believe it was Diane Walker.
So how many captains did you have at Compton Station, including Waldy as the acting captain? I'm sorry, as Compton Station.
Approximately 4 or 5.
All right. Do you remember ever talking to other deputies about low arrest stats at Compton?
No.
Did you ever tell Deputy Banuelos that you wanted him to have at least 8 arrests a month?
No.
Did you ever tell Deputy Banuelos that you wanted him to have any number of arrests per month minimum?
Never.
Okay. Did you ever have any discussion about arrest quotas with Captain or Commander Michael Thatcher?
I don't recall. No, I don't think I ever did. No.
Okay. Do you recall a period of time when the arrest stats at Compton Station per deputy doubled or tripled over the course of 3 to 4 months?
I do.
Do you know why the arrest statistics doubled or tripled during that period of time?
I mean, I don't know personally. No.
Well, were you the scheduling deputy at that time?
I was.
Based on your experience as a scheduling deputy, as a deputy sheriff, what was your opinion as to why the arrest statistics had raised so much in that short period of time?
Black's foundation calls for speculation, assumes facts, not an evidence. You can respond.
So my personal opinion is because that quarterly report that comes out, it showed Compton Station having the lowest arrest stats, and I think people were embarrassed.
When you say people were embarrassed, what people were embarrassed?
Again, lacks foundation and calls for speculation. You can answer.
Again, my personal opinion, I'm guessing it was the line personnel.
Okay. What line personnel expressed to you that they were embarrassed about the low arrest statistics at Compton Station?
So nobody expressed it directly to me. No, that's just what I heard.
Okay. Well, how did you hear it? Who did you hear it from?
A patrol deputy, but I don't recall who it was.
Okay. Do you know why you were transferred back to Compton Station?
No, I don't.
Okay. Did you request to transfer back to Compton Station?
I did.
To whom?
At the time was Commander Thatcher.
Okay. And how did you communicate with Commander Thatcher?
Pardon me. The question is overbroad and ambiguous as to time, but you can respond.
I believe it was either through email.
Through department email?
Yes.
And what did you ask him in that email?
If I can go back to compensation.
And did he reply to that email?
I believe so. I believe he either replied or he had me call him to the office.
Did you call him on your personal cell phone?
I don't recall. On his personal cell phone or mine?
Either.
Well, I've never had his cell phone number, so I called his office. I don't recall if I used my cell phone or the station's phone.
Where was Commander Thatcher assigned to at that point?
He was the commander for Central Patrol.
Okay. And where is that located?
Hall of Justice.
Okay. Did you go see Commander Thatcher at the Hall of Justice around the time you were assigned to Industry Station?
Can you repeat the last part of that question?
Sure. So while you were at Industry Station, did you ever visit Commander Thatcher at his office in the Hall of Justice?
No.
Okay. Did you ever meet with Commander Thatcher in person at any time while you were assigned to Industry Station?
No.
Okay. So all your communication with Commander Thatcher, your testimony is it was either via email or over the telephone. Is that correct?
Ambiguous as to
During the-
time.
yeah.
You can respond.
During my industry time, yes.
How many times did you speak to Commander Thatcher over the phone about your transfer back to Compton Station?
Just that one time.
And what did you tell him specifically?
I don't remember the exact words, but I asked him if I can go back to Compton Station.
What did he tell you?
That I could.
Okay. Did he tell you you'd have to wait some period of time?
No.
Did you ever ask him why you were assigned to Industry Station in the first place?
Asked and answered, you can respond.
No, I didn't.
Okay. Did he ask you?
No.
Okay. Did you ever have any discussions with Chief Eli Vera about your reassignment to Compton Station?
I did.
When did those conversations take place?
I'm sorry, you said reassigned to Compton Station? No, I never did talk to Eli Vera.
Okay. When's the last time you spoke to Eli Vera?
I spoke to, at the time, Chief Vera when I was told I was going to be assigned to Industry Station.
Is he the one that told you you were being assigned to Industry Station?
He was there, yes.
Who else was there?
Commander Thatcher.
And where did this meeting take place?
The Hall of Justice.
Did they tell you any basis for your transfer to Industry? Did they tell you anything?
No.
And just to confirm, you didn't ask them why this was happening?
No, I just followed orders.
Have you had any conversation with Eli Vera after that date?
No.
What's the most recent time you spoke to Commander Michael Thatcher?
I'm sorry, the squeaking cut you off.
Yes, when's the last time you spoke to Commander Thatcher?
It was through phone when I asked him to come back.
Did he relate to you that he had taken your case to Chief Vera?
No.
Did he tell you that he had spoken to any other sheriff's personnel about your transfer back to Compton?
No, he didn't.
Did Commander Thatcher ever ask you to increase arrest stats at Compton Station?
No.
All right. You know, I think I'm close to done. Can we take 10 minutes and then I may be done, but I just want to go over my outlines and make sure I've covered everything I want to cover.
It's your depot. You can recess anytime you wish.
Okay. Well, we'll recess now. We'll come back in 12 minutes, which will be, whoop, my clock's messed up.
20.
We'll 12:20.
Very
Okay.
good. Deputy, mute and stop the video, please.
Yes, sir.
Okay, we are now off the record. The time is 12:08 p.m. Eastern Pacific time. We are now back on the record. The time is 12:22 p.m. Pacific time.
Deputy Juarez, did you ever turn down the training officer position at Compton Station?
So from Covenant, because Covenant is the ones that assign the FTO positions.
I don't know. So were you ever, did you ever turn down any training officer position at Compton Station?
Not from Covenant, no.
Okay, how about for not coveted?
Pardon me, just a
Yes.
second. How about questions? I always object. They're argumentative and ambiguous, but you've already answered the question. Go ahead.
All right.
What was
I'm
your
gonna
response?
yeah, I didn't get it.
I did.
Why?
The schedule did not work.
Hold
for
on
me.
just a second. Hold on just a second. Again, anything pertaining to discipline of you or anybody else, you cannot answer. Anything else you can. Go ahead.
So the position, the hours for that position did not work for me or my family.
Did you ever work PMs at Compton Station?
Yes.
How about early morning shift?
How about is
Yes.
ambiguous and argumentative, but we've got the answer yes.
Did those shifts work for your family?
Yes.
Why did you no longer feel that your family could tolerate you working as a training officer?
Okay, that question, I believe, is invasive of his right of personal privacy. It's up to you, Deputy, whether you wishes to waive the right of privacy in that regard or not. What do you want to do?
I'll assert it.
Okay, so marked as number 17. And Madam Corporator, can you read the question back? I mean, he brought it up. That's why I asked.
Why did you feel that your family could no longer tolerate you working as a training officer?
Okay, and that's number 17, instruction not to answer. Did you ever have any negative interactions with Lieutenant Waldy while he was the acting captain of Compton Station?
Ambiguous and argumentative, you can respond.
No.
Okay. We're going to look at an exhibit here. It's going to be exhibit 4, and I'll publish it momentarily. And I'm going to represent to you that this is a text message between Lieutenant Waldy and Commander Thatcher. Hold on, let me display it. Can you see that?
Yes.
Okay. I'll go ahead and read it. I won't read Commander Thatcher's phone number to the record, but it says, FYI, Jaime Juarez turned down the training officer spot, did my due diligence, and let him know if he turned it down, he would be removed from the TL list for Compton. Sorry, let me turn off my notifications. He still declined. I remember the chief wanting him to do a year and then leave the station to do bigger, better things due to the fact that he's a shit magnet. What do you think that Larry Waldy was referring to in saying you were a shit magnet?
Hold on. Lacks foundation, calls for speculation, argumentative as can be. And frankly, it is so offensive. All right. I'm not going to instruct him. I'm going to allow him to answer the question.
Yeah, I don't know what Lieutenant Waldy was thinking when he wrote this text, sir.
So there was never any negative interaction where you were disrespectful to Lieutenant Waldy in person during your time at Compton?
No.
It says you're ultimately a risk management issue. Same question.
Hold on. You're resuming, for our record's sake, you're resuming the reading from Exhibit 4, right?
Yes.
I just want that to be clear. Go ahead.
Do you know what Lieutenant Waldy was referring to when he said that you are a risk management issue?
Lacks foundation, calls for speculation, argumentative, you can respond.
Again, I don't know what Lieutenant Waldy was thinking when he wrote the text.
Do you think it had anything to do with the shooting analysis committee issue?
Hold on. I think this potentially gets into issues of discipline and investigation regarding potential discipline. I'm going to instruct him not to answer on that basis, but I'm also going to object that the question lacks foundation and calls for speculation.
Okay, let me take notes on that. Please mark it, Madam Reporter, as question number 18. Going back to the exhibit, it says, however, I don't think Jaime wants to leave. I think he wants to dig his claws in and run that station. Have you ever seen this text message before?
No.
Okay. Did Commander Thatcher ever share Lieutenant Waldy's opinion of you with you?
No.
Do you feel Lieutenant Waldy has a positive impression of your time spent as a subordinate at Compton Station?
Lacks foundation, calls for speculation, and it's ambiguous and overbroad. You can respond if you have a response.
Yeah, I don't know what Lieutenant Waldy's opinion of me is.
Okay. Would you characterize your time as his subordinate as being a proactive, honest, and ethical police officer?
I'm sorry. This is who? Waldy or self-characterization?
Self-characterization.
All right. Read it back with that understanding. He's referring to you here. Read it back.
Would you characterize your time as a subordinate of being a proactive, honest, and ethical officer?
You can respond.
Yes.
So why is it that in May 2019, Commander Thatcher and Chief Vera personally called you down to the Hall of Justice to confront you over the work slowdown at Compton Station?
The question is argumentative, lacks foundation, calls for speculation. If it pertains to discipline, you cannot answer it, but otherwise you can.
Again, they didn't mention anything. They just told me I was going to be transferred to industry.
They didn't mention anything? Strike that. So if either Thatcher or Vera testified at their deposition that they confronted you about the work slowdown, they would be mistaken?
Yeah, I don't recall a conversation about a work slowdown.
Do you recall any conversation at that meeting in May 2019 of the basis for your transfer?
No.
And you never asked them at that meeting, right?
No.
Now, when you were transferred back to Compton Station, was that part of a regular breakup or was it an overnight or neither?
I believe it was neither. It was about a week away.
Do you know if Lieutenant Waldy was consulted prior to your transfer back to Compton?
I don't know.
Okay. Do captains or acting captains generally have to approve of transfers to their station?
I don't know what the process is, sir.
Okay, counsel, you just tell me how many more minutes, because I have to eat lunch at some point soon. But if you're on the cusp of wrapping this up, I can go a few more minutes. Otherwise, we're going to have to break for lunch. It's up to you.
Okay. Well, I was done before you jumped in. Okay.
Okay. If you're done, you're done. Go ahead. Let's wrap it.
Yeah, let's wrap it. I'm going to leave the deposition open only for the purpose of me trying to having the right to compel responses to these 18 refusals. Otherwise, I'd ask that we stipulate that we relieve the court reporter of her obligation.
I'm a code reporter. I don't do stipulations on my transcripts. We go by code.
Okay. So
you can stipulate anything else, but to relieve me of my duties, I'll maintain my duties under the code.
So you're going to maintain the original under the code?
The original will come back to you after it's signed. Yes.
No, I think the code requires you to maintain the original in every case, right?
No, once it's signed, it's sealed and it comes to you, and you present it to the court sealed.
Okay, let's go off the record for a moment.
We're now back on the record at 12:32 p.m. Pacific time.
So we are going to suspend the deposition. I am going to request on the record a certified copy of the final deposition transcript, as well as a copy of the video. I do not need them expedited. The deponent will have 30 days from receipt to review, revise, and return. Anything else, Mr. Peterson, you'd like to put on the record before we call it a day?
Nothing else on the record. It's just being done by code. That's all automatic. Okay.
Okay.
Mr. Peterson, are you going to want to order a certified copy as well?
Yes, I want a certified copy. I also want a compressed format copy, 4 pages to a side, one side only. Exhibits attached to the compressed format copy as well as the certified copy. Would you please ask the good folks in production to arrange the pages so that we go from upper left to lower left and upper right to lower right? Okay. And as far as the video is concerned, Mr. Videographer, if you will contact Ms. Mardikian at our office, she will tell you whether we will order a copy and if so, in what format. All right?
That's perfectly fine. Do you know if we already have her email on file?
All right, send it to me and I'll get it to Ms. Mardikian. How about that?
No worries. And if we have it in our records, that's perfectly fine. I can make sure it gets to her.
Very good. I'd say we're done here. Thank you all very much. We're done.
Bye-bye.
All right. Just to give us a read off, this concludes the deposition of Jaime Juarez in the matter of Waldy versus County of Los Angeles et al. We're now off the record. The time is 12:34 p.m. Pacific time.